hold on, we'll take care of that. So at matrix A, 6, 1, negative 5, negative 2. Matrix B is negative 1, 3, 0, 8. Okay. So we want to be able to enter these matrices in the TI-NSpire. These are the instructions, but let's just walk through it. Okay. So what you need to do, when you get to this home page, everything we're doing in this unit is a calculator page. So you're creating a new document, and it is a calculator page. So you'll have a blank calculator screen that looks like that. Everyone know how to get there? Okay. Then we're going to create a matrix. There are a couple ways, but this is the way we're going to start out. Menu, and you can either scroll your mouse down, or you can just pick the number 7. You can touch 7. So I can just touch a 7 because it's matrix and vector. So 7. The first option is to create. You can hit the OK button because it's already there. So create matrix. Just hit the enter. Okay. It's asking me to create a matrix. Its default is a 2 by 2. Well, that's wonderful because that's what I'm about to create, is a 2 by 2 matrix. So I say OK, and then it creates sort of a blank skeleton for me to create a 2 by 2. Okay. Is everybody at that point? So menu, number 7 was matrix and vector. Create was option number 1, and then create a matrix, and then tell it it's 2 by 2. And then you're just going to put these numbers in. So 6, what I like is the tab key. 6, and then I just hit tab. 1, tab, negative 5, and then tab, negative 2. Okay. Now what you'll need to do, you need to move the cursor. The cursor is right now in the matrix. You need to move the cursor outside the matrix. Okay. Now I can work with this matrix as it is. I can do stuff with it. What really is helpful in these problems is to store it as a variable. Okay. Like call it matrix A. Then your next step is to find the inverse of A or multiply A times B. So the way we do that, we store it in a variable. And so when you see this command right here that has VAR above it, it has the word STO for store. So you hit this control button and then that VAR button, and it's going to allow you to pick a variable. So I'm going to pick the variable A. Okay. So again, what I did, I'll just back up and do that again. So I was right here, I did control var, and then I store this in A and hit return. Enter. So it tells me that that is matrix A. Now if you've done it right, you can just hit A and hit return, and it knows. Okay, now it knows that's matrix A. Okay. Does everyone get that? Now let's just store matrix B, same process. So menu, matrix vector, create, matrix, 2 by 2. And that's going to be negative 1, 3, negative 1, 3, and then 0, and 8. I need to get that cursor outside the matrix. Control, var, let's store this as matrix B. Okay. Oops, sorry. Store this as matrix B. There we go. Enter, and there we go. So I now have matrix A and B stored in here. So what I can do now, if I go back, so this is just the instructions of what we walked through. Now I can do things, okay? Let's use your calculator to figure out what A plus B is. All you have to do now is just go to your calculator and you just say A plus B and hit return, and there you go. So that is adding A plus B. When you add A plus B, you get 5, 4, negative 5, 6. So 5, 4, negative 5, 6. Okay, so what I want you to do now, and like I said, just work through what these things are, okay? So on your calculator, now that you have A and B, you can find A minus B, 3 times B, A times B, and BA, okay? So I'm not going to work through all of these precisely, but I'll let you work through those. You're done before you walk out of here, okay? So let's solve this 2 by 2 system using our TI-NSpire. So the first step, you need to rewrite this as a matrix equation. which is going to be what? 2, 7, 3, 17 times xy equal 34, 77. Now to solve this, you've got xy equal 2, 7, 3, 17 inverse times 34, 77. Now, I'm going to do this one just a little bit different way so you can see that. So what I can do on the TI-NSpire, I don't have to always store a matrix into a variable. I can do it like this. I can say, okay, menu, matrix and vector, create a matrix. I need to create a 2 by 2 matrix. So let's create this matrix here. 2, 7, 3, 17, 3, 17. Okay, what do I need of this matrix? I need its what? Its inverse. So move the cursor outside. I could store it into a matrix, but I can just do this. I can just say, find the inverse of that matrix, okay? So you see what I did there? So I've got the matrix, and I did the caret -1. The cursor is way up here. I need it to come back down. And this matrix needs to be what? What's the next operation? It's what? Multiply by another matrix, okay? So I just simply go ahead and do that. So this needs to be multiplied, so times another matrix. Menu, matrix and vector, create matrix. What's the dimension of that matrix? That's 2 by 1, so it needs to be a 2 by 1 matrix, okay? And then those numbers are 34 and 77. 34 and 77, and then hit return, and you're good. So the answer is 3, 4. So that would go back, and then if this were my problem, I would just say x equal 3, y equal 4. Okay? Everyone see how I did that? So there are two things. You can enter the matrix directly and find its inverse just with this notation, or you can store them in variables, okay? So if it's just a matrix equation, you can do what I just did here. But when you look at some of the exercises of what we have, well, we'll back up. When I look at the homework, you'll see where it makes sense to store. So for example, in the homework, your first problem starts out with something like this. No, the second, well, let me back up. Let's look at the review. The review is what? So when I see a problem like this, what am I going to do? I'm going to store each of those matrices. When I see something like this, I'm going to enter each of those matrices and store them in A, B, C, D. Then I'm going to do the work, okay? But if I see something like this, what we just did here, I'm only asked to do one thing. Now here is a 3 by 3 system. A 3 by 3 system is no harder on the calculator than a 2 by 2. It is much harder by paper, okay? So let's write this matrix equation. What is the matrix of coefficients? 2, 3, -1, -1, 5, 3. What's the next number here? That is very important. There's a 0 for your x. There's a 5 for your y and a -4. And then this next variable matrix is what? X, Y, Z. Solution matrix is 3, 24, -10. And then solving that, it's going to be X, Y, Z equal 2, 3, -1, -1, 5, 3, 0, 5, -4, inverse times 3, 24, -10. And all you have to do now is put that in your calculator. Okay? So, like I said, a 3x3 system on a calculator is no harder than a 2x2. So let's look at that one real quick, and we'll get that one on the calculator. 2, 3, -1. So what I need to do is menu, matrix and vector, create matrix. That coefficient matrix is what size? Yeah, it's a 3x3 matrix. And there we go. And so the numbers across the top, help me, what were they? 2, 2, 3, 1. And then the next row is what? -1. 2, 3, -1. -1, 5, 3. So -1, 5, 3. And then I know there was what, a 0 there. And what were the next two numbers? 5 and -4. Okay. So double check 2, 3, 1, -1, 5, 3, 2, 3. Oh, it's 2, 3, -1, right? Did I have that wrong? It's 2, 3, 2, 3, -1, -1, 5, 3, 0, 5, -4, 0, 5, So make sure it's correct. Move the cursor outside the matrix. And now I need to do what of this matrix? The inverse. So raise that to the -1. Move the cursor down. This needs to get multiplied by what? The solution matrix. What size is that matrix? That's a 3x1 matrix. So a 3 by 1 matrix. And that matrix is 324, -10. So 3, 24, and -10. And this is where you are thankful for a calculator. It looks easy, but that's a lot of work. Okay, 1, 2, 5. So x is 1. Now, what I probably shouldn't have done here, but I would do it. On a test, you might get something like x is 1 over 117, y is 2 over 320. You're going to get weird numbers. I don't mind throwing that at you on a test with a calculator, okay? So don't get freaked out when you get really weird fractions on some of these answers, because like I said, I'm not going to test you on the manual part for that, but on the calculator, no big deal. So you're going to get some that might look a little bit hairy. That's pretty much it. But what I want to do, I'll go ahead and pause here.